How's it going, everyone? Today is December 28th. It's another day of the holiday hunt. Matter of fact, it's my last chance here to kill a big buck, so brought Grandpa Skelly up here because every time he comes up here it seems like a buck dies. So that's the game plan for tonight. There's a weather front coming in, and right in the front of this there's a pretty good wet snow falling right now, so we're starting to see a little bit of white in the woods. It's not really sticking great, but hopefully this front will get them up on their feet. Cliff said there was a decent buck that came out here last night. Of course, I wasn't up here. That seems to be par for the course as far as hunting goes. But we got one more chance to get it done, and you can't get it done in the house, so we're out here. What do you think, Grandpa? Tonight the night?
Yeah, we got how much time we got left?
We got about an hour and 20 minutes, I think. No, not quite. Less than that, 45 minutes or so.
Yeah. You keep saying kill a buck. If you don't get it with that rifle, that means I'm going to hit it with a truck. I really don't like that.
One way or another. One way or another, a buck should die tonight, hopefully. So, we got the muzzleloader. Really can still shoot anywhere we need to with the Thompson Center up here, except for way back off to our right, but they haven't really been coming out there anyway, so we can shoot to the woods on about any angle and feel pretty comfortable with that. So hopefully we'll get to let it eat tonight. Stay tuned. What was it like when you were younger as far as like the seasons and stuff? Was it about the same as it is now?
What's that?
Like deer season? Was it the same time and everything?
No, when I was a kid, it was 6 days bucks only. And then it went to what they call an open season for 2 days. So it was a 6 and 2. It was an 8-day season. And then they come out with the doe permits. I forget how that worked. But
So you only got
the
6
guys
days?
they would shoot spikes and wise. And I know when I was a little kid, my brother and I'd sit on the back porch on the farm, and if the weather was good, we'd sit there and you'd hear shooting, sporadic shooting off and on all day, and it was bucks only. And it was, now we talked about it years later. It was almost unbelievable that they were seeing that many bucks. But when you think of the old shotguns with just a bead on them, a lot of guys were carrying double barrels, and they called them pumpkin balls. They didn't even call them slugs. And, you probably couldn't hit one much over 50 yards, and even if you did, then you was lucky.
Yeah. So a lot of those shots were misses then.
Oh, they're not comparable at all to a rifle, but these new slug guns are pretty good, up to 100, 120 yards. I don't want anybody shooting at me with them.
Yeah. That's true.
It's like the scope thing with the 2 bucks I shot back to back. That's the first time in my life I ever shot deer in consecutive years. And I never used a scope, but the kind of hunting we was doing, the scope would have been tough.
Yeah.
In the brush, and did a lot of driving.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times if you just sat in a place where you could see 50, 60 yards. You wasn't going to shoot any further anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt that, this is the most effective type of hunting to kill big bucks, but I do miss the drives. I miss there's camaraderie there, and
driving's fun, but
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's quick action, or there's no action, and you move
As a
on.
rule, you're not going to get a standing shot.
No. Hell, the 2 biggest bucks I've killed have both been on drives.
You got 2. The
Yeah.
one over to McCrae's, and
Yep.
where was the one over to Rhodes's?
Rhodes's, yeah. It was on 3 legs, but I wouldn't have known it when I shot.
The 3 he was using was working pretty good.
Yeah, he was moving right along.
They're quite an animal, really.
Biggest buck up here right now is on 3 legs too.
Who got the big buck over there this year? Somebody got one. I see it on the internet. Mabel showed it to me. Was that Jason's brother?
Oh yeah, or no, Mark's wife.
Ooh,
Yeah, that was a stud. Heavy.
unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. I just
Well,
can't imagine, like, you know, trying to do this with a sharpened stone and a bow that you made out of whatever you could find, you know. That's when and whether you did it or not meant whether you ate over the winter.
it's like that elk your brother-in-law got. I was looking around on the net and they showed Indian buckskins with those ivory teeth, rows of them on there. How'd they kill all them elk, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe they run them off the cliff, I don't know.
maybe.
They did that with buffalo. I can't imagine with the kind of bows they had, but they worked, I guess.
Yeah. Pretty
And
impressive.
there must have been a certain amount of younger Indian boys or maybe girls too, that most of the winter their job was to try and find dry wood, dead wood or something and drag it back to the longhouses. Can you imagine how much wood an open fire takes all
Oh,
the time?
yeah. Somebody shot.
You have to shoot right under this for me to hear it.
Sound like maybe it was up by Brian. That's one thing.
Be a lot of guns for sale next week.
Yeah, I remember growing up and stuff. We'd muzzleloader hunt all week, and then we'd all fire the gun at the end of the
Yeah.
season. Half of them would go off, half of them would. That one time we shot it at the upper farm. It looked like a flare going out of the barrel. Man.
We got done one year. It's a kind of a bad year. It was cold, and I kept my muzzleloader in the barn, and James had been taking his in the back room while it's pretty warm back there. I don't know if it got damp or what, but it wouldn't go off. So we finally took the nipple off, and I don't care how much you know it's gonna go. I touched it with a Bunzade burner. We all flinched, but it went.
Yeah.
I don't like monkeying around with a screw trying to pull a bullet out of something that's
No.
got powder behind it.
I'd just soon shoot it.
Here's a fly that's in for a shock in a couple hours.
Yeah, he thinks he's waking up in the summer. I still think the best James story is the one with the mouse.
357.
It was your dad. Your
He
dad that
emptied
was
that
there.
pistol at it, and it was making so much concussion and stuff in the leaves. It was blowing the mouse up in the air about a foot. And when he'd drop into the leaves and Jim would shoot where the leaves were wiggling, out he'd come again. On the way home, my dad said I was about half pulling for the mouse.
Wonder what your dad would think if he could come hunting this for a night and see how different.
Oh boy. No, when we was kids and not hunting, Sunday afternoon at the end of the first week, in fact that was the end, if it was cold, and it seemed like when I was a kid it was always cold, always snow.
Mm-hmm.
Dad and we'd ride around the French Creek Valley and all over looking at the bucks hanging. Knew most of the people. If they were out looking at it, we'd stop and hear their story. Some were pretty good sized bucks, but very seldom would you see huge bucks like you're seeing today.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's just a result of people letting small ones go, or deer themselves getting bigger in general?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I know a guy shot a huge buck at 62. I was working at the garage, and I remember it was, thought at the time it was the biggest whitetail I'd ever seen. And years later, I met his boy up ahead of the lake, and I said, "Have you got your dad's deer head?" "Yeah," he said, "it's right there in the house." And I went in and looked at it, and it didn't seem near as big 50 years later. I don't know.
Yeah.
He put a slug right through the rack, a 20 gauge slug, and all it did was put a hole in it.
Really?
Yeah, he told me that he thought he killed it because it just dropped right there. Right? He had a 20 gauge Browning, and he said it no more than dropped, and it got right back up, and he let him have another one. But it was a heavy deer.
Well, that buck you got upstairs there, that was, for the time, that was about as big as they get, right?
That dressed out 186.
Yeah, I mean, even still,
heavy.
That's a heavy deer anywhere today.
There was no snow.
Comes a couple out there. Boy, they're moving. Why this thing's not focusing?
You see them?
Yep.
See that first white pole and the second one, they were right there. Come out just the other side of that tree and went across. Pretty damn fast too. I think it was the same three we see up here. Just standing there.
Yep. Got its head down right now.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up for Monte and Grandpa. They ended up seeing those 3 doe, and then some more deer came out in the strip food plot, and then it looked like a 6-point came out right at last light there in the corner. But that's going to do it on the deer hunts on the Bailey farm this year. The holiday season ends on January 1st. We're not going to go out anymore. We're going to give the deer a break for the last few days, and I'm actually going to be heading over to Pennsylvania with a flintlock. I have a buck tag over there that during the flintlock season you can use as a doe tag, so hopefully I get an opportunity at a big doe and I can take her out with a flintlock. That's always kind of fun, getting out there with that flintlock and giving that a try. But we had a few good ones make it, so there are some deer to look forward to seeing next year, and we'll get into those, and I'll talk about them a little bit once it gets closer to shed season, because the one buck I really want to find both sides to, because I have his sheds, both sheds, from the last 2 years. So I have him as a 2.5-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and this year he was 4.5. So if I can pick up his 4.5-year-old sheds, I'll have matches 3 years in a row, and then if everything goes good, we'll kill him as a 5.5-year-old. So that's the game plan next year. Thanks for watching. We'll see you probably in Pennsylvania with a flintlock.